Hello guys, and welcome back to the third and final episode of our tutorial chair making video. And we are almost at the end. The geometry is already created. We just need to add some materials on it and put some light in the scene and render the image. And we're going to do it in just these couple of 15 minutes, and we're going to talk a little bit about UV mapping and shading and all these cool stuff that we love to talk about, that you're here to learn. Anyway, so let's begin right away. Let's talk about a little bit about materials. And to see the materials, we need to go into this viewport shading. We also can see some materials in this viewport shading without let's call it a real rendering engine. But this one here, rendered, is the 3D view we want. Is this one here. As you can see, there are no lights, so we need to add a light. Shift A, light. Let's add the simplest of them all, a sun. As you can see, it's here. It's already selected, so let's grab it and move it somewhere here, and click on this little to rotate it a bit. Okay, so let's say that this is kind of looking good for our lighting at this point. Let's add also with Shift A plane and scale it so that we can see our shadows. Good. And we need to select our light, our sun, and go into our properties panel here, and let's put this angle value at 15 to have this kind of a smooth looking shadow. And you can see it's flickering, and that's because our render engine is Eevee. And in this tutorial we don't want Eevee because Eevee is very powerful, but we want as realistic as can be, so we're going to set cycles. And you can already see what's happening. It's not looking half bad. Okay, and let's maybe give a little bit more of strength to that light. It's a little bit weak. Okay, maybe this is too much, but it's okay. Let's also add a bit of background. Let's go into edit mode of this face, edge select. Let's move it a bit on the x-axis, and let's extrude it on the z-axis like this, and let's bevel it a bit with Control B. Okay, let's add more Lucas. Okay, perfect. Okay, this is better. Okay, now what let's talk a bit about materials. Let's add the simplest of them all. Let's add a material to our frame. It's going to be our black chromish kind of looking thing. So we go into this material properties panel and select our object. And since your materials are going to appear here, but since there are no materials in this model, we need to add one, and we can call it black chrome. Okay, so black chrome. We will change this but this base color. We will change it and give it like a black, something black. As you can see, it's not showing in the preview. Probably some kind of a bug. Let's go back and forth between the viewports, and now it looks okay. But obviously, being chrome, we need to have it specular, so we need to reflect the light, and we need to lower the roughness so it's really specular, it's really showing. And then we need to up the metallic to 1, and now we have our black chrome, kind of blackish black chrome thing that we like. Sorry, my dog keeps walking around. Anyway, this is it for this material. And this one is simple because anyway, my wife and daughter just came in. The dog is going crazy, so this is probably the end of this video. But I'm gonna come back, I promise. Look at this cool transition. And we're back. For you, it's only been a couple of seconds. For me, it's been like an eternity. But I'm still here. So let's get back right where we left off. So we have our black chrome material, and that's fine. And now we're gonna do the fun part. Let's go into this viewport shading mode with the textures, but without the lighting. And we're gonna go right into shading. And here you can see that our workspace has changed. Our viewport has become a little bit smaller. It's still right here, but we got another 3 windows that we're gonna use. Let's adjust it like this a bit. And we have our shader editor right here, and we have our browser and our image editor. We're gonna stuck with this one for now. So let's select our object and let's add a material. Let's add a material, and we call this material fabric. Okay, as you can see, when we've added a material to our object, in our shader editor we have this appeared. So this is our material output. This is our principled BSDF node. So these are all nodes. All these nodes have some kind of property that when connected to one another and then pass through our material output, the result is our material. It's kind of difficult to explain, but you'll get the hang of it once we start working with it. So this principled BSDF node is practically the same thing we had when we didn't go into shading editor, and we didn't talk about nodes, but we just changed these parameters for our material. As you can see, if I change here our specular value, here is changed also. So this is the way it works. But when we want to use a texture material, like in this case we want to use a fabric, we need to add a texture, and this is how we do it. First we need to go into preferences, and here we need to enable an add-on. It's an add-on that's innate to Blender, it's native to Blender, so we can find it just right here, node, and you need to check this checkbox, node wrangler. And now what does this mean? When you enable it, you need to select this principal BSD node and press Ctrl T, and you'll be adding a texture image node with UV mapping coordinates. So now what do we need to do? We need to, you can see that automatically these two nodes get connected from color to base color. And this practically changes our base color white and adds something that we're gonna input in here. So we need to choose our texture, and we'll find it. I have something prepared for you guys. We're going to use this one, even though our final chair is going to use this material, but for the sake of this video I want to show you with this kind of tartan ugly material, but just so you get the hang of it. So let's open this image, and you can see that nothing has really changed. You do not see a pattern here, but the color has changed. So Blender has took if we all did like a mesh color and mixed it all together, that texture, this is the tone you would get. So why we do not see our texture? And that's because our object is not UV mapped. So now we need to UV map it, and we need to unwrap it, and map it. And in Blender, we do it by going into our UV editing tab. So what we got here is a different workspace. Here we have our UV editor right here with our texture already prepared and ready. And here we have our viewport as usual. And so what do we need to do? We need to tell all these faces how to imprint this texture on them. And to do that, we need to unwrap. We need to unwrap our object. Just like a cube, if you have a cube, we need to unwrap all the faces and lay them down on this texture in our UV editor. So we need to first tell Blender which edges do we want to our texture to break, like, and these are called seams. So these edges that we're going to choose, they're called seams, and that's where our texture doesn't it breaks its continuity. And obviously we need to choose the ones that are not seen. This is probably a cushion that's just sawed, and you will obviously have some lines that are going to break the texture. So I am going to use these lines here, of course. I'm going to select these lines by selecting this edge and then holding Control and select this one, and Blender search for the faster route from one edge to another and selects them all. And I'm going to continue all the way around to select our edges. Okay. And I'm gonna do the same, and I'm gonna select these side edges. And I'm gonna also select these back edges. I'm ready for another tip for you now. When you press this on the numpad, I don't know what's called, it's backslash, I think it's backslash, and you get to isolate the object that you're working on. So now you get to see all the things that you want to select. Okay, so now I think we've selected all our edges that we want to make seam, and then you press U on the keyboard and mark seam. So now you see that these edges have changed the color. And now all you have to do is select all, press again U, and unwrap. And here you can see our object unwrapped. So these are all faces. If you go into face select mode, you select this face, you see that this actually is, here, this is the face. This one is this one, this one is this one, and so on. And we've unwrapped our texture, and if we go into this shading mode, you see that our texture has been mapped correctly, or maybe incorrectly. Maybe you don't like the way this is looking, so you just select these faces. You select these faces, and you select them here again, and then you can even rotate it if you don't like, and position it where you want. So like this, maybe it's better. All the shortcuts work also in this UV editor. So G to move, R to rotate, and so on. S to scale. As you can see, S to scale, I can also scale. But let me see what's going on here. Maybe I want to move it a bit, like so that it connects to this one here. Okay, this looks good, right? Yeah, this looks nice. Maybe I'm going to do the same thing right here. Control, select all this, R to rotate, like this, move a bit like here. Okay, so now, and then I pressed tab to go into object mode and see that our texture has been added, and it looks quite all right. Okay, now press again the backslash on the numpad, and this is our beautiful chair. Okay, so we need to do the same thing for this one. Let's just add a material, but not create a new one, but select this and select fabric. As you can see, the color is there, but the texture isn't, because we need to do the same thing we did before. So let's go back into edge mode. Let's select the edges. I'm going to fast forward a bit now. This is our final model. What we need to do now, of course, I already told you I don't want this ugly texture, ugly material on our chair. So this was just for the purpose of showing you how UV mapping works. But I'm gonna use another shader. So I'm gonna go back into shading, and I'm gonna change our texture with this one. And UV mapping stays the same. You can see that now our texture has changed. And what can we do now here? We can change a bit of the scale, because it looks kind of too grainy. I need to make it a bit smaller. So I'm gonna type 2 for X scale and 2 for Y scale, and also Z. So okay, now this looks fine. And what we're going to do now, again, let's go into render viewport shading mode. You can see that the roughness and specular are right here. I can make the specular even bigger, but before I do that, I'm going to add a little bit of bump, because no textile, no fabric is like this smooth. It's more like leather to me. So I need to add a bit of bump. So what we're going to do, we're going to duplicate our texture image node by simply selecting it and Shift D to duplicate it. But we need to, but we need to change the color space of this one to non-color. And as you can see, also the other node has changed its color space to non-color, and we don't want that. So we need to press this little 2 to make it unique. So now we have two same identical nodes, but if we change one, the other one doesn't change. So we'll put this one back to sRGB, and this one will be non-color. So it's practically the same image we had, the orange image, but in monochrome mode, so grayscale, you know. And we're gonna connect our vector to this vector. So it's practically using the same mapping that it's using for this. It's also scaling it by 2 and this one. And we need to add with Shift A, just like you would add a simple object in the viewport. We're going to add a bump node. Just search it, bump. Here it is, and let's add it. And we're going to connect our color to height of the bump and our normal to normal. And as you can see, the bump has been added. But I think it's a bit much, so we need to lower the strength a bit. I think 0. Maybe even less, 0.1. 0.15, let's say. Okay, this looks a bit more realistic. Okay, so guys, this is it. Practically you finished. The only thing left to do is to add a camera and render the image. Okay, so let's go back into layout. Let's add a camera with Shift A. camera. As you can see, our camera is down there. And then the best thing to do with our camera selected, just put yourself in a position, choose your angle of the perspective view you wanna see your chair, you wanna render your chair in, and I don't know, I think this one looks okay. And then press Control Alt 0 on the numpad. And what you've done now, you've placed a camera, the camera we've created a bit ago, into your position. So where you were standing, and if you press Control Alt 0, the camera will appear in that position. If you go out of this, now you can press 0 and you'll go back into the camera view. But as you can see, I'm not too happy. Of course, the framing is all wrong. So you can press N to open this side panel, and into View tab you'll click on this Camera to View. So now you can pan, and you can set your camera angle and your camera view better. Let's go into this. Okay, so we can see the shadow. Okay, let's pan it a bit like this, and I think this looks just fine. And when you're done, remember to uncheck this. So now when you panning, moving around, you're out of your camera viewport. What's left to do now is to go into this render properties panel and select your cycles as your rendering engine. And there's a bunch of things you don't need to be aware of now for this kind of tutorial. I'm going to make a couple of them just for rendering, but this for now, this default setting, look, it works well. You may only want to change in our object properties panel. You could change your resolution. It's set now to 800 by 450. You can change it by typing the value you want here, or this is 16 by 9 aspect ratio, or you can just change the percentage. So if I put 240, this is going to be 1080p rendering. And when you're happy with it, I'm just going to go back to 100. Just press F2. And this is it, you guys. Oh my God. You finished. You've created, you modeled, you rendered, you textured, you applied your materials to your first model. And I hope you like this tutorial, and I will see you in the next one. No more chit-chatting. Remember to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. If you have an advice for me to change something, or to add something, or to remove something like my face, for example, maybe you don't want to see me, or maybe you don't even want to hear me, because I do have some videos where I just draw and just model without any talking or any face showing. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Please continue supporting this channel. If you want to check out my SketchUp channel, I also have a SketchUp channel. You can just check it out from this link right up here, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and see you. Goodbye.